Her Story podcast. This is Gertrude Mache here today in beautiful Melbourne, Australia. Welcome to our show. My co-host is Sally Galvin, coming to me all the way from Perth. Welcome, Sally. This is exciting to be with you this morning, introducing our new show. I'm going to hand over to you if you could give everybody an introduction of what we want to be talking about on this show. And we'll just bounce off each other with regards to the questions that you emailed me and see who else will join us, because we have a couple of people who responded to join us today. I'll hand over to you, Sally. Introduce yourself first.
Good morning, Gertrude. Good morning, everybody. Sally Galvin is my name, and I am from Perth, Western Australia. So right over the other side of where you are at this present moment, Gertrude.
Yes.
Yeah, we are. And it is today's show, what we are going to talk about today is, well, what we've been discussing and finding. There is a big, there's a demand, there's a reason, there's a hot topic out there right now, and especially with our pandemic and our COVID, you know, with the lockdowns all around the global pandemic and the world, is our children and our parenting, and what we like to call, or what a play on words, something that I do, is we talk about creating MindFit Kids. So I don't know about you, but I take my parenting incredibly seriously, and I am what you would call a self-aware parent. And there are many self-aware parents out there in the world today now. And self-aware, by self-aware parent, we mean we're talking about a parent that takes full responsibility for their parenting. They take their parenting very seriously, and they are always aware about the positive, negative, and everything in between, all the impact that they can have on their children as they are growing, as they are raising their children. And when we talk about self-aware parents, parenting what we call MindFit Kids. So to be able to parent or grow children that are grounded, resilient, and well-adjusted to reach their potential, is their full potential, I think is the aim of the game. Okay, this is what we're here for. So I'm a mum of 4. My eldest is 15 and my youngest is 7. And I am very proud to be a mum of my 4 children. But what I'm seeing today, and what many mums that I speak with, and authorities within the parenting world, what I'm speaking with, is a lot of our children are suffering anxiety, depression, suicide, God forbid. The rising rates in suicide in Western culture right now are hitting all kinds of crazy levels. And it's just so sad, Gertrude, and we need to do something about it. We just can't pretend that, it's going to fix itself.
Yeah.
And I honestly, truly believe the power of the mind. So from being a sports, an Australian representative myself, I've learnt the power of your mind. And then I've, over the next 20 years of living and doing, huge amounts of positive development, I've learned the power of a positive mindset. Not only a positive mindset, a resilient mind, a long, strong, fit, healthy, flexible mind. And it's all very well learning it at 42, or really, that's my age. But if we could help our children harness the power of a long, strong, fit, flexible mind, a mind that can improvise and adapt, a mind that, if they can control how their thoughts come in and out of their minds, if they can control and grow themselves socially and emotionally so that they are resilient, grounded, and well-adjusted, able to improvise, adapt, and overcome with whatever hits them in life as they go through, then they will grow up to raise their own children the same way. And that ripple effect is really what and that's what blows my mind. So if we could help, so I'm putting it out there, and we've asked, we've got a fair few people interested and involved in creating MindFit Kids, or giving their story on where they're at with their own children and their own parenting. Especially now with our global pandemic, we really, really need some conscious, it's not just woo-woo rubbish stuff. It is backed by neuroscience. The way that we think about things creates our world. And it's just such powerful stuff. And we need to teach our children, because somebody once said to me, Gertrude, it's much easier to mold and shape a younger child than it is to fix a broken man. And the amount, or man or woman is, I'm saying that. And the amount of broken people out there, God forbid, if we could have taught them, or if we still can, if we can teach our children the power of mind fitness, I think we can make a huge difference in all walks of life, all over the world. I really truly do.
The subject you're talking about is huge. Some of us brought up our kids a little bit earlier. My children are now 32, 30, and 24. Nobody gave us a rule book or, this is how you do it. We just had to jump in there and fumble and bring up the kids the best way we can. But now people have got options in terms of parenting. People have got experts that can help them. People have got more resources in terms of the internet. And you're right, we're living in this global pandemic. The levels of stress, not just with adults, but with young children, is extremely high, because nothing is normal, in quotes, right now. Now, we're going to be joined today by a couple of guests who I will add to our discussion now. And ladies, as you come on, I will call on you to introduce yourselves. Thank you so much for gracing us with your presence, and especially at such short notice. This is just amazing that you got the message and you made it. So we'll start with you, Jen. Please give people a quick introduction, who you are, where you're based, and what are your views and your thoughts on this topic?
Sure. Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here. I'm Jen Bradley. I'm a mom blogger at jenbradleymoms.com. And I'm a mom of 5 children. My oldest is 15, and then they go down the stair steps until 5 years old. And it was about 5 years ago that I was introduced to the concept of growth mindset. I was honestly really struggling with my oldest son. He was 10 years old at the time. And he had a very difficult time understanding that mistakes weren't forever, and that he could continue to learn and grow, that his talents weren't set, and that, and so I needed to do my own research and to learn how to teach him that failing was not the end, that we can keep learning from our failures, that failures are actually very helpful to us as we learn. So I started to do my own research, reading everything I could find on growth mindset, things like learning about grit. There were so many good publications that have come out in the past 10 years. And I felt, just as Sally mentioned, and as you mentioned, Gertrude, there is a wealth of information and knowledge. And now, at the time when my son was 10, I had my last baby. She was a newborn at the time. I find that I'm able to parent my younger children in a way that is better than my older children, and to really focus on, I'm also a homeschool mom, so I do a lot of teaching in the home. So we really focus on things like how to overcome failure, how to overcome trials, how to not be afraid of stress, and to welcome that as an opportunity to learn and grow. So that's where I'm coming from. I'm really grateful to be here.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing your views. It's amazing that you were lucky enough to be able to be home for a start, to look after your
Sure.
kids, but getting access to all of these resources. Sally, what are your views there?
Good morning. Hi, Jen. I say good morning because it's morning here in Perth. It's very early good morning here in Perth, isn't it? Jen, a mother of 5. How amazing. And you homeschool all of them, 5 to 15. Brilliant. I take my hat off to you, and you are definitely an example of a self-aware parent. Jen, mistakes are okay, that they help us learn. That is the biggest thing I've had with number 3 of my children. Mistakes are okay, they help us learn. So many children struggle to try because they're afraid of failure, aren't they? And when it just loosens things up when they learn that it's okay to make mistakes, because gosh, life is one mistake after the other, do you know? Like, that's just how it rolls, isn't it? So anybody that's had any success in any just made, they've failed after failure after failure way to success. So I love that, Jen. I absolutely love that. That's absolutely brilliant. And you know, I think like just your 30 seconds or your minute of talking there, the best way to teach our children is to lead by example. And I can see you're a perfect leader by example, Jen. So welcome. Thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That's so kind of you.
Sally, introduce our next guest.
Oh, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Ludmila. Dr. Ludmila. Welcome to our show this morning, Creating MindFit Kids. Her story, Creating MindFit Kids. Please give us some background and interview. And give us some please give us some background.
Thank you so much. I'm so thrilled and excited. Sally and Gertrude and Jen, this is amazing opportunity. And when I received sort of invitation, I had a goosebumps, because this is the very first time I will be actually speaking about this. So I'm Dr. Ludmila Schaefer, and I'm a medical oncologist specializing in gastrointestinal cancers. So I do research and see patients, but the most important, I'm mom, and I have only one child, and he's 25 years old. So I grew up in an area where Poland and Belarus, and then I moved to the United States 20 years ago. So I'm in Kansas City right now in US. And back in the days when I grew up, we had a very limited resources. And in the family where I was, I kind of felt it was never good enough. And as a children, we had to work, do chores, and we study. And really, I admire how the family raised us. But then I got invitation as a young physician to the United States through Professional Line to do a grant. And I was young, energetic, and I was so impressed with healthcare and other things that I could do. So decided to take a bold step and move over here. And of course, when my family and my child moved over here, we didn't really speak English, had very limited resources, no money, no house. So starting as a young adult and bringing, a baby like this with you, it really, I had no idea about resources and everything you kind of learn as you go. So years passed by, and now he received a great education and having, full life. And it's amazingly only 20 years later, I'm able to speak about it. The reason I speak about it, because one thing sort of stays with us and motivated, it's actually I developed a spa. Does any of you like a spa?
Oh, yes.
I call it actually resilience spa. And I'm going to pause for a moment, but I would be happy to continue about the resilience spa what I design.
Wow, this is interesting.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. You know, parents are looking for tools, they're looking for how-tos, they're looking for resources all over the world right now. And I know, Sally, the reason why you and I connected on such a powerful level, and you're right, Ludmila, I hope I'm saying your name right.
Yes.
One of the things that made an impression on me when Sally shared her story was that this is something that was very dear and very close. Events that happened in her life that kind of spurred her to come on this journey. Sally, I'm not sure if you're comfortable to share some of that, the backstory as to why you do what you do, because I think having you by my side as part of my leadership team for the Her Story movement, what you are working on right now, for me, is just an incredible mission. And it's such a huge vision. I feel honored that you picked me to be a part of your vision. And I want to find every single way that I can to motivate you, support you, get your message out, and bring on board people like Jen and Ludmila, other professionals, other parents who feel as passionately as we do. So I'll just hand back over to you, Sally. If you could just take us a few steps back and share your backstory, why you do what you do, and wake up and do this work.
Of course, Gertrude, I'd love to. So when I was a little girl of 8 years of age, I grew up on a sheep and wheat farm out here in Western Australia. So I live just on the outskirts of Perth now, but when we grew up in Wandering, which is about 2 hours east of here. And I had the most idyllic childhood. I was 8, my next sister was 4, my youngest sister was 7 months old. Mum and Dad, we lived on a sheep and wheat farm, and we just had the perfect country lifestyle until it wasn't. Interest rates were very high, and whatever it was, the stresses. My father took his life when I was 8, and my younger sister was 7 months old. Mum did a phenomenal job of bringing us girls up. She took us from that big farm, moved us to a smaller farm here, closer to where I live here in Jarrahdale. And so I was like the dad's boy. I was the one that went wherever Dad went. I used to be in the ute with him, bringing the sheep in the harvester with him. I would much prefer be out on the motorbike or out on the horse or out doing whatever it was that Dad was doing. So when my hero left us, it really shattered our whole family. But as I said, Mum, being the resilient, strong, dedicated woman she was, threw herself into her children, and she was the first taste I have ever had of a resilient, mind-fit, strong woman, self-aware parent, and she led by example. So she brought us closer, and threw us into sport, and we all hit, amazing levels in our equestrian sport, riding horses. All 4 of us have gone on to wear the green and gold and play for Australia. Then suicide raised its ugly head again when I was 21. The man of my dreams that I thought I was going to marry took his life as well. So suicide popped up twice between the ages of 8 and the ages of 21. And now as a mother, I then took off. I was never going to have anything to do with men again, according to myself. But I then went to Europe and went travelling, coaching and playing polocrosse. And I met the man of my dreams then and married my husband. He's an Irishman, and he's one of the most amazing men you'll ever meet. And we are now blessed with 4 boys, okay? So in that track of suicide, I know most people I know in my life have been, in fact, everybody I know knows somebody close within them that has taken their life. It is something that is happening more and more and more. And that is like the bottom of the bottom of mental mental issues, in the mental health. So if suicide, and then there's everything else in between. So with your mental health and mental health awareness. So as a mother now of 4 boys, I am so aware of mindfulness, mind fitness, and mental health awareness, because particularly in men here in Australia, the mental health issues and problems with young boys, with older men, with women as well. It's not just one. But as a mother of 4, I've gone, oh my goodness gracious me, and I've gone out there and I've looked and looked and looked for good quality information, good quality tools, tips, helpful hints, stuff the children can learn, stuff that I can learn to help my children. Because if my dad had known mind fitness, if he had known how to calm and still his mind when pressure hits, because pressure does hit, shit hits the fan, for want of a better word. Life is not always kind, but it's not what happens to us, it's what we do with that. And if we can teach our children just that mistakes are okay, they help us learn. If we think we can, we can. If we are, if we can understand the way that anxiety works and how it's useful and how we can overcome it with neural pathways. There is so many things that we can teach. There's so many tools and tricks that we can teach our children. And if my dad had have known them, then this little girl might not have lost her dad at 8 years of age. And if my partner had have known it, it might have not been a waste of good life at 21 years of age. Mm-hmm. And there are so many more people out there in the world that can really do with some help. So on my search, I found a lot of stuff. I found some woo-woo stuff that was so, left field that it would have just lost my children. I also found some hardcore backbone neuroscience, scientific, just not palatable for children either, or for parents. And so that is my question. That is why my programs, that is why I've put together, that is why I've written the book, Parenting a MindFit Kid. That is why we are out there in the world making a difference. So if we can help parents and children together, so we can have some stuff that children can learn, we can have, but it also needs to be coming from the parents as well. Because as I said, the most important parenting tool we can ever give our child is to lead by example. Because to tell is what I like to call, and I don't split words, as bullshit parenting. So if you tell your children to do something but you're not actually doing it yourself, kids know that. They're not silly. They are actually, they don't miss a trick, do they? You guys all know that, firsthand. And so this is why I get up every day and I love what I do. This is my obligation. This is my obligation to humanity, is to not only help parent my own MindFit children and all the children that I have within my in-house programs that we run here in the Jared Isle Group, but to get it out there onto platforms, help parents, help people, help parents, help children.
That is just wonderful, Sally. Yeah, for those of you who don't know me very well, I'm from Zimbabwe originally. I've been living in New Zealand for the last 21 years. And what Sally is saying is really pivotal, especially for the male child. I think because girls are more in touch with their emotions, I'm not saying girls don't also have mental health issues. A lot of young boys slip through the cracks because they don't express, they don't share what's going on. And in some cultures, like in the African culture, men are supposed to be tough, they're supposed to be strong, they're supposed to not to show emotion. It's even an added layer of pressure or stress in terms of how culturally you're perceived as a man. And the show of vulnerability is viewed as a weakness and not a strength. So that's why I'm really passionate about this subject as well. And when Sally and I decided to put this show together, like I said, we are searching for stories. We're searching for experts. We're searching for ideas. We're wanting to create a platform where we can reach more parents, reach more young children, help give them the tools so that they can find ways to exist in the current environment we're in right now. So Jen, just like what Sally did, she's given us a bit of her backstory. I'm all about showing and not telling. We can talk about us being experts in this or experts in that, but when we share from a personal perspective, the challenges we've gone through personally, it's more believable. People can relate to who we are. My personal experience with suicide was when I went through my separation and divorce. So I was married for 27 years, the love of my life. Everything just fell apart in 2015. And I remember being on antidepressants, being overweight, and having a recurring dream that I would commit suicide on my balcony with the cord of my dressing gown. Now, I had this dream 3 times, and I describe depression in this way, and especially when you're on antibiotics, I felt like I was digging myself out of a grave with a teaspoon every morning just to wake up and exist. And so I decided to leave my ex, drop the medication, and started to rebuild my life. So I was on that edge. And I remember thinking, if I had done it, what was going to be the impact on my kids? Because this is a generational thing. It just doesn't stop with you. Mm-hmm. The person who commits suicide is a solution for you, but it's the people who are left behind who are impacted the most. And my decision to leave was, I thought I would rather be somewhere away from my children, somewhere in the world alive than dead. And I did not want to leave that legacy with my kids. So we're going to jump over to you, Jen. If you could just share from a personal perspective, anything that has really challenged you the most with your kids in your life, whatever it is that got you to say yes to come on this show.
Sure, thank you. Yes, personally, I was at a very dark place it was about 6 years ago now. I guess 5 years ago, I had just had my last baby. I was really struggling with my oldest son, as I mentioned before. And my husband is in the military. I live in Texas now, but at the time we lived in Japan. And so we were 7,000 miles from home. And I had 5 young kids who were at home all the time because I homeschool. And we were living in a very small house. And my husband was deployed. He was gone for a year. And I was at a point of complete and total overwhelm. I had nowhere to turn for help or sound advice. And I just remember waking up every morning thinking that my kids might be better off if I just wasn't even there. And that, of course, now saying that, it doesn't make rational sense. No. But at the time, that's truly how I felt. And I remember just crying, thinking, and this is just the most random thought, but I would be better off in the ditch behind our house. And everyone would be better that way. And I can't even say what it was specifically that helped me to get through those dark times, other than the fact that I started to learn, to educate myself, to start finding resources. I leaned hard into the idea of imperfection, and that imperfection is actually a gift that we can then work from our places of lack But it all started with finding resources that spoke to me. It took a lot of work and a lot of effort. Also, there were very minor changes that I made each day. And I think many young mothers experience this, just feeling like, I don't want to wake up today. I don't want to get dressed today. I don't care what we eat. As long as we just all survive the day and make it to another night, and then I'll wake up again and do it the next day. I found a personal coach to help me mentally realize that as a mom, I had a very important role to play in my children's lives, and that if I could get myself right mentally, if I could begin to see hope, then of course that had ramifications that would impact generations. But I was just at a point, and I really don't know. I don't know if I was going through postpartum depression. In some ways, I think that maybe I was. But I needed an outside source, many outside sources who were educated and who could come in and say, okay, make these incremental changes in your life. Get dressed in the morning and feed yourself. And because I think for me as a mother, I was in that place of just continual, I need to serve everybody around me and I need to take care of everyone else's needs. And I stopped thinking that my needs were important too. So that's I guess my darkest hour, and how I started to make the change from there.
That's wonderful. You've just given me a title to my next book. So I've been working on a book on my imperfections. And as you were speaking, what came to me was perfectly imperfect.
I love that.
Thank you for that. And that's something we forget, right, Sally? Nobody is perfect.
Nope.
And
Absolutely not.
it's when we start looking at ourselves from that perspective that nobody's perfect.
Right.
But as women, as mothers, we strive to be everything for everyone else, and we forget to fill our own cup.
Right.
I'll just bounce back to you, Sally, then you can let Ludmila jump in here with her story.
Absolutely. Yeah. So the filling your own cup, Gertrude, like you just said, and Jen, you said the same. It is the most important thing to do as a mum, isn't it? Because you are no good to anybody else if your cup is empty. You're no good to yourself. You're no good to your children. I have a personal coach as well. Okay. And that is something that's really projected me on. I have a business coach, but it's actually business and life as well, because it's all one. Yeah. It's not a balance. It's a blend, isn't it?
Right.
But he says this most amazing thing, when you're on the aeroplane and there are those oxygen masks that drop down, and it says, please, in the case of emergency, make sure you put your oxygen mask on first before you assist everybody else. Now, me as a person, as a mum, as a sister, as a daughter, as a niece, I put everybody else first, because I thought that was me, being big me, being helpful me.
Right.
5 years ago, I would have whacked that thing on. I would have got about 6 people done, and then I would have dropped down dead. Now, the new me, the real me, the me now that is doing so much more, puts that thing on first. And you do too, Jen, I can see it. And Gertrude, I know you do too. And Ludmina, I'm sure you do too, just having a speak with you for a little while. Anybody that does anything, great in the world, whether it's parenting, whether it is business, whether it is life in general, always looks after them first. It is of utmost importance. And by leading by example, our children will do the same thing too, getting back onto parenting, because Jen, that was just absolutely amazing. And do you know what? You saying that story there, my sister has 5 children. She's a set of twins at the end. And she has been in that place as well, because 4 children's enough, but 5, that just tips the scale to another level. There are so many mums out there that need to hear your story, and with your mum blogging, I'm sure they do, so that they can relate, and it just happens so often. It really, really does. So Dr. Ludmila, I'm really sorry about It's really lovely. You haven't had much time to say. We would really love to hear about. Well, we've had a little dash about where you've come from and the struggles you've had with your family moving to another country. I don't know what that would be like. I have never experienced it. Gertrude has. I haven't. But to come to another country with no friends, no family, not even speaking the language. Absolutely amazing. And you must just be well, I can tell already by just looking at you, you're the pinnacle of resilience. And your resilience spa, I'm really interested in hearing about this. But give us a little bit more about your story as well, because that's what people connect to. You know, who you are and what's happened to you, why you are who you are now, the most, well, a doctor aspiring to do amazing things.
Sally, thank you very much. And, you're hearing the such heartfelt story that brings me actually back to the point that I'm so amazed that we come from all different continents and we are here in one room and we are speaking on one absolutely the same point. And that's what brings me about being imperfect. And what I would like to say that actually the other day I heard, glamorous doctor. And actually, right now, yes, maybe someone look and yes, the way I look and it looks glamorous, but actually my life has not been that glamorous if we look at the whole path. So I came over here and because I was through professional line, I was trying to do exams. And when I trained back in early 2000, there was times when we stay in the hospital about 35, 37 hours. We would round in the morning and then we would again, and it's being on call. And I do like this 24 hours followed by 35, followed by 12, and again. So I really felt that sometimes I would come home and at that time I was married, that actually the child would be sleeping and I wouldn't see him and I would have to go round and to the hospital again and I wouldn't see him. So he would be either already sleeping or yet. So it was like sometimes 2-3 days and I would only come to bed. And you would think, why would you do this? Why you did not, stop? You had to take care of the family. But I had this drive inside of me and the place where I came and how I saw that I would not give him really future. When I graduated back in Europe, I was lost. I was 20 years old and I had really all this education, read these thick books, and I didn't really have a purpose in life. I did not have purpose in life. And I kind of felt that if I don't make it, I see how I can give the best life and education. And that's what kind of drove me. And then at some point in life actually came when all these things happen, the family starts falling apart. And of course, then for some reason, I start passing boards and a spouse did not. And we were physicians at that time. And it was taken really hard that I was, as a woman and moving forward. And it was really, really a lot of difficult conversations that at the end of the day, it was actually easier for me just to be a single mom. Sorry saying this, but that was the reality. And you are sort of the way how I share with you. I really felt that when at that moment, I thought that I had to unleash myself. And that was sort of bravely unleash. That's what I kept. And felt like, yes, you have to go around, take care of people, but how are you going to take care of others if you can't take care of yourself? We have to start from inner self. So when I sort of, of course, training 3 years passed by and then, life kind of get a little bit more structural. And that's when I realized that as we went through this, difficult period, it ended to the point where that sort of unleash and that bravely and that's taken care of. And I thought, felt that my main sort of was maybe a goal is to let him do what he would like to do in life. And whatever he felt like would be the best for him. And yes, how do we find books and guidance, for our children? And that's exactly what drawn me into this room. And that's exactly why our missions collided, that yes, we are coming and we kind of learn our lessons, personally, genetically, environmentally, socially, whatever that environment. But then we also have to keep going from generation to generation. And that's exactly, I feel that where we are starting. So my main was design that resilient spa. And I called it always a spa. It stands for S, stop. So I tell, we stop and we pause. No matter what, you find this 30 seconds, 1 minute, or maybe half an hour a day, and you just stop. You just unleash yourself and you stop. And you think. And then you realize that the next P stands for plan. So you kind of analyze where you are, what are your goals, you communicate, you test environment, you don't just jump to the next step. And when you feel that it's safe, then you go to A, what means act. And that's when you act. So having that sort of, pause and then stop and plan and act. So that's what I kind of feel. And I feel that this stays with me for almost 20 years. And you are the very first, actually, who I share this with me, because this is, I kind of feel it's close to my heart that I have not shared. And now I'm trying, put this in a book. So I'm writing a book actually about this. And thank you so much for having me here.
That is wonderful.
Absolute pleasure. Ludmina, what does R, is it S-P-A-R or S-P-A?
Yes, A stands for act, like action. Mm-hmm.
And is there an R at the end, or is it just S-P-A?
Yeah, just the S-P-A, like spa. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I was just writing that down, Ludmina, and I don't know why, but I put R on the end, and R, I would think it would be repeat. And it's a circle, isn't it? Anyhow, you know how when things come to you, that's just one of the things. That's amazing, Ludmina. You're
amazing.
You are, and don't beat yourself up about, when you were saying about your working so hard and not seeing your son, and then the struggles of relationships as well, in that. I love the way you own it, and I love the way you take full responsibility for it, and you don't beat yourself up about it, because guilt doesn't do any. It just doesn't help. It does not serve you at all. You're an amazing woman, and I know your son will be amazing too, because he's got an amazing mum.
I've got to jump in here, Sally.
I'm
in Melbourne. I normally live in New Zealand, and I managed to come just on time on Tuesday. My only daughter is having my first grandchild, and we know that it's a little boy. And we were having a conversation yesterday about her baby, and she's quite anxious. She said to me, "Mom, I'm bringing my baby into the world, and the world isn't right, and everything is." She's anxious, and I said to her, "You're going to be the best mom in the world. You're going to be the best mother, and you have to just bring on everything that I taught you, your grandmother taught you. Be the best version of you." And you talked about unleashing yourself. If we could teach our kids to unleash themselves into the world and be the best versions of themselves. and play in their areas of strength. I think a lot of the stress that we all experience as human beings is because of the expectations of our parents, our societies, our cultures. We do not unleash ourselves into the world. So I love that word, Ludmina. Now, Sandy, to go back to you before we finish this show, I know that you have put together a very robust program that is helping teenagers globally. Take us a little bit into that program so our listeners, our viewers get an essence. And thank you to the people who are tuning in on Facebook. We've got somebody who's just said pearls of wisdom. Thank you, ladies. Thank you so much for being on the show. Please spread this through your social media. Tell people about this show because we're trying to reach as many parents, as many young children as possible with what we're doing on this platform. So we'll end with you, Sally. Give us your program, your nuggets of wisdom, what it is that you are bringing into the world in this space.
Absolutely. Gertrude, so the power of story. The MindFit Kids Academy is an online program that I've put together. COVID shut our in-house programs here that we were running in Jarrahdale, and we were helping the local Perth children and such. And one of the blessings of COVID was that it shut our doors, and so I popped our programs online. And we've taught children, the program is a 6-week program. It is a robust, quite in-depth program, teaching children between 6 and 12 years of age, so our tweens, before they lose their prefrontal lobe and hit their adolescent years, to arm them with the tools. It teaches our 6 and 12-year-old children to arm them with the tools to ground, still, quieten the mind, understand the way our mind works to begin with. We have got, so the first program, the first part of the program, I just want to touch on that because I find it easier to explain in depth. The first part of the program is mind mastery. Mastering your mind, understanding the power of our thoughts, of creating reality with what we are thinking. So how our mind shapes our world. There's stories about children, 6 to 12-year-old children. You know, they have issues or problems in their lives, and in comes the main character, who is Albert the Wise Unicorn, and he comes into their life. So it has a little bit of fantasy as well. He comes into their life and he helps the children work out what their issues were and overcome them. So creating MindFit Kids is really what it is. One of the stories is you believe what you achieve what you believe. The third story is neural pathways. So to understand overcoming anxiety, not being scared of anxiety, not helping with the anxiety, increasing your anxiety by worrying about it. It helps you, just a little trick with visualization, building new neural pathways. Sports specialists have been doing this for decades. How we can teach our children to do it. And my favourite one is flipping your power, understanding that it is your choice on how you respond or react to things. So flipping your power. So that's just a little snapshot into some of the stories that we have. There's 35 of them. Creating MindFit Kids is this program that we're doing here, which is quite amazing. But Becoming MindFit Kids are some stories that I've written in some hardcore books. But the MindFit Kids Academy is the online platform, and that is now being used in England. It's being used in LA at the moment. I've got some clients in LA, New Zealand, Australia, and it's having amazing results, amazing, phenomenal results. I'm really proud of it.
That is just wonderful. Absolutely phenomenal. And we are planning to have a conference, an online summit in September. We're looking for these kind of stories. So Jen, Ludmina, if you know anyone else in this world, we're looking for a panel of speakers for our conference in September. We created the Her Story platform as a space for us to uplift, inspire, empower through the sharing of stories. we've had people who've come onto this platform who have shared personal experiences, like what Sally did. That's how we met. She was one of our speakers at one of our events. And there's something that happens when you share a personal story. In Africa, we believe that a problem shared is a problem halved. And the minute you tell another human being, you're no longer carrying that burden alone. So in Africa, we don't have psychologists. We don't have, psychiatrists. Communities are poor. There's no access to this kind of support. But the support that you do get is within your communities. And when I was growing up, I don't remember ever hearing of anyone committing suicide or anyone being depressed. There were people within the community who were there to hold space for each other. And now that has been lost. A lot of people are suffering in the developing world because our traditional ways of being are no longer there. So the stress levels are extremely high. The suicide rates are really high. When I moved to New Zealand, I found a sadness in this part of the world that I haven't seen anywhere else. And I've been to 56 countries. I found a disconnect within communities, within the society. The principle or the way that we live in Southern Africa is a philosophy called Ubuntu. Ubuntu ngamuntu ngabantu says a person is a person through other people. It's our condition of being humans. That I can't exist without you and you can't exist without me. In Ubuntu, you talk to random strangers. In Africa, you will never get on a bus and not talk to the person next to you. If you're in the train for 2 hours, you will talk to the human beings who are around you. And when I moved to London for the first time, I was 19 years old. I lived in a society where people didn't look me in the eyes. People looked through me like I didn't exist. And I was just used to, standing at a bus stop and saying, good morning, how are you? And, being myself. And people thought I was actually crazy. People thought I was insane. But that's our way of being in Southern Africa. And so as I've traveled around the world, I've tried to share this philosophy. It's a completely different way of being. And COVID-19 has come for a very specific reason for humanity, I believe. When we look at the big picture of what's actually happening in the world, it has given us pause. With Mina, you talked about the word pause. We have been forced to stop. And we've been forced to stop to really reprioritize what's important in our lives. It starts in your home, with your family, with your husband, with your children, with your extended family. Then it goes out into your community, and then it goes out into the world. So we have a gift in COVID-19. The Chinese write the word for crisis with two symbols. One stands for dangerous, the other one stands for opportunity. It's a dangerous opportunity we've been presented with that I think as human beings we really need to pause and really try and see what is in this crisis. We're having to prioritize and make the most important things important first. The amounts of stress in the homes, domestic violence in the homes has gone up with COVID because people are being forced to be in confined spaces alone. Partners aren't going to work. Sometimes relationships last a long time because you're not in the same physical space for so long. So how are we going to address that? So that's what we want this platform to do, is to create a safe space. Maybe somebody out there just needs to talk and just be heard with no judgment, just a safe listening space. That's one thing. The second thing is the resources. All three of you have brought some amazing resources to the table. So when we have our conference in September, we will listen to 100 stories based on this topic. In the next month, in October, we're going to be running workshops where you ladies can then transfer the knowledge, the skills, the tools that you've created, that you use personally to the greater community. Because I think that's the missing piece. Sometimes you go to an event, you go to a conference, you hear someone inspiring, and you think, gosh, if I could have had 5 minutes with them, if I could have just learned something else from them. So we're going to finish off because we've got 5 minutes left on the show. And we're going to go back into the room. I'll start with you, Jen, your last parting thoughts. Ludmina, your last parting thoughts. And Sally, you will finish us off.
Sure. Sure. Thank you so much. I think that this has just been amazing to see. As Ludmila mentioned, we're all from different continents, and yet we all have a story to share, and we all have this desire to help those around us, whether it's mothers, parents, to help their children to become healthy, well-rounded individuals who are not just healthy physically, but mentally as well. I see over and over again the importance of teaching mothers that this life isn't the only person that you're here to better is yourself. And as you do that, you then better your children. It's not a race against anybody else. There's no other mom that you need to compare yourself to. I feel really strongly that each mother on this earth has her own children for a specific reason. And that the more empowered that a mother becomes, the more powerful her children can be. So that's what I continually blog about on my blog, teaching mothers how to create systems in their lives, how to feel healthy, how to recognize that they're not alone in their motherhood struggle. I recently, one of my most recent articles was about 13 cringeworthy mom fails that we can all relate to, because we all fail, we all struggle. And normalizing that, understanding, as we said in the very beginning, that we can grow from our mistakes, that our failures, Sally, you mentioned this, we fail and fail, but we fail our way to success. That we're raising children who can become strong individuals to contribute to the better of society. And so I'm really thankful to join with all of you in that amazing mission. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Jen. Ludmina, your parting thoughts.
I'm so thrilled and be over here. And one thing I would like to tell that all viewers and listeners, that your story have not been heard just yet, but it will, because I'm sure who is listening, you have a story. It's just have not been told. Just like inside of me, it's set for 2 decades. Then please come, please share with us. Because I came from a different world. I've seen, like Gertrude, you said, I came from the community when we knock on the door and we ask for a piece of bread and we say hello. We didn't have to go to the grocery store. We just could knock to the neighbor and get a loaf of bread. So, and over here also, we didn't have psychiatrists, and here is so many resources. So I really urge that all, women and young men and, girls and boys and everyone, please share your story, that we are here for you. And I'm so thrilled to be part of your mission. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Sally.
Well, here we all are, all 4 of us, from different parts of the globe and from different walks of life and from different starts. We're all mothers, we're all parents, and we're all actually, in essence, made of the same stuff, aren't we? Yeah. We really are. We are made of the same stuff, and we all have the same mission. And I truly believe that any self-aware parent out there in today's society now wants what we want, don't they? We all want the same goal. We want to raise grounded, resilient, well-adjusted or well-rounded, like you said, Jen, children reach their full potential. And we've understood that it's important that we work on us as leaders, by example, in our parenting. And when you realise that you're not isolated, that we are all the same, even though we come from so many different walks of life, the power of our story, the power of our coaching, of choosing where we want to be and putting one foot in front of the other to get there, It's just truly amazing. I'm so blessed to be part of this discussion here with you ladies today. Thank you so much for coming on. And Gertrude, thank you so much for creating this space for us, because this is healing and this is moving forward, and this is what we need more of.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Sally. It's just an absolute honor to be able to facilitate in creating the space. This is my reason for being. This is what makes me wake up every morning and do what I do. And thank you to everybody who tuned in today. We had someone in South Africa saying, thank you, ladies, for this platform. I'm learning a lot all the way in South Africa. Thank you for that. Pearls of Wisdom is our beautiful sister, Deborah, in the UK. So we have reached the world today with this show. And it's going to be a regular show every Sunday in New Zealand, Australia, every Saturday in the US, and the UK. I guess it's Saturday in the UK. So I have to think about the different time zones. It will be at what time did we start, Sally? 5 a.m. in Australia, 7 a.m. in Melbourne, Australia, 9 a.m. in New Zealand. Jen, where are you? What time did we start? Where you're based?
Oh, I'm in Texas. It's 4 p.m. on Saturday.
So we started at 3 p.m. in Texas. Yes. It was 2 p.m. Pacific. Ludmila, where were you?
Yes, I'm in Kansas, so it's also 4 p.m.
Okay, so we started at 3 p.m. in Kansas. Wonderful. At least we've got all these different time zones. So we will be back again next week with another panel of guests. Sally is the head of this particular part of the Her Story movement, and we'll be hosting more guests, hosting more specialists, professionals, and we want to grow a community of people who can participate in all of our events that empower parents globally in bringing up MindFit Kids. Thank you again, ladies. Stay on the line for a second, and thank you to everybody who tuned in.
Thank you.
Bye for now. Don't go away, ladies.